Why did the Bitcoin emoji get removed after Elon bought Twitter? I thought that was a bad sign.
I was in the Las Vegas shooting. I got shot at.
You were there.
I was there. Like it was bad. And so I started researching everything I could on the planet about what happened that night.
You can't vote harder to fix all of these problems, right?
Exactly.
You gotta fix the money to fix the world, as Bitcoiners say.
But imagine if you had actual proof of real in everything you could identify, and there's no way to hack it. That's the ultimate Trojan horse of tokenization. That's how you spread Bitcoin to 8.2 billion people, in my opinion.
There was no income tax prior to World War I.
Prior to 1913, the same year the Federal Reserve was instituted.
Of course.
I'm not paying my taxes to go bomb kids in Pakistan, send bombs to Ukraine. We're sending weapons all over the world right now. And so at some point, you're actually aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise by paying your taxes.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Maybe this is the epoch that really is some kind of weird transformation because the memetics are so powerful.
So you're telling me that we are living through the digital American Revolution
We are
globally?
Globally. This is a global digital 1776. And so you're like, oh man, like how deep does this go?
Yeah. So you've been blowing my mind in our pre-conversation here in the domains of numerology, power, money, politics, all these things. There's confluence between all of these things. I don't really know where to start, so I'm just gonna maybe start with something simple. You foretold Trump becoming a Bitcoiner. Maybe we could just start with a story there and ease into the rest of this craziness.
Nice shirt, by the way. I love that shirt.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. It's
turned into a frog all of a sudden.
I feel very memeified.
Yeah. And so, look, I've kind of been, a Trump supporter for a while. I was not big into politics, but I saw an outsider come in back in 2015, 2016, right? And I'm like, I was always a Ron Paul guy. Yeah. Always hey, we need to end the central bank. That's where a lot of our problems come from. I saw this outsider come in and I was like, he's not really attached to any party, so I'm going to go with him, right? Start supporting him. 2016, he gets elected, right? And he starts doing some good things. And in 2017, I believe it was, I was in the Las Vegas shooting. Okay, so I was in the Las Vegas shooting. I got shot at. I knew the whole narrative was bullshit.
You were there.
I was there. Buddy took a round in the leg. Like it was bad. And so after that, I started really researching, going, man, I knew 9/11 was like weird, but I know they're lying about this. And so I started researching everything I could on the planet about what happened that night, right? Because it messed with my head, right? And so I finally stumbled upon this entity known as Q, right? QAnon, right? This random person on the internet that was posting information. I was like, some of this seems credible, but I'm like, it's just random information on the internet. Like it was talking about arresting corrupt officials. It sounded too good to be true, right? One of those things sounds good to be true. And I always knew that without fixing the money, how could you just start arresting corrupt individuals, right? Because they would just eventually get control of the money printer at some point and just print their way out of, corrupting more individuals further on down the line. Yeah. And so you start putting these pieces together from that standpoint, and it really kind of solidified maybe Trump and this Q person and maybe Bitcoin are kind of connected. Okay, so I had that kind of just initial thought, right? And as I'm going through, 2018, 2019, it becomes more apparent that obviously the corruption is getting worse and worse in other areas with the Epstein Island stuff coming out. And then, Bitcoin really kind of taking a foothold. And so, there's this kind of this thing that happens in your head where you just start picking up patterns. And the whole idea behind the Q stuff was pattern making. It'd something would happen in the drops, and then you go to the regular news and find out oh crap, this was correlated. Someone knew beforehand, or Trump and this entity would tweet at the same time. Yeah. And again, I'm not going to try to convince you that Q is real, right? It's kind of
Can you say, sorry, I just really paid attention to this today, actually reading your articles. Could you just describe what Q is? A lot of people probably know, but just in case they don't, because I actually didn't know.
No, it's a good place. So this random person on the 4chan and 8chan message board, so some people call it the dark web or whatever, would just post like Socratic messages, like, hey, why do politicians get paid? Where do your taxes go? What is the Federal Reserve? All these different questions that would make an individual, kind of like a citizen journalist, right? Like Elon kind of talks about, go out and actually research these different topics, because we're fed propaganda so often, we're lazy, right? We don't actually go do our own research.
Yeah.
And so this individual, whoever they were, group of people, whatever, would kind of pose a lot of those questions. And then all of us would kind of go out and would read research and come up with our thoughts and ideas on what maybe this was. And so, think of all Bitcoiners as like mathematical, maximalists in the sense of like coincidences, right? There's no such thing as a coincidence, right? The CIA likes to say that. You just started getting these hundreds of different proofs from this anonymous account that seemed to be aligned with Trump, okay? Now, there was a lot of misinformation because you got to imagine like the bad guys are looking at it too. Everybody gets to look at it. It's just open source intelligence information that anybody can go on the internet and type in. And so a lot of it was disinformation, right? But a lot of the information it posted almost seemed like it was like a chess game. It would like maybe make them make a move ahead of time because they knew something that they posted that was like a little bit too on the truth. So you see something happen in the news. And so and it built this huge movement of patriots across the world who would like interpret these. Some of the biggest accounts on Twitter would post this stuff. And then we all got like wiped out right after January 6th. Okay. And again, a lot of people like thought, oh, we're going to the Capitol, the military is coming in, Trump's really going to be the president, which of course didn't happen. And so after 2020, like I was shell shocked, right? Because I know Joe Biden didn't legitimately get 81 million votes. He didn't get 100% of the vote at 3 a.m. Like all these mathematical anomalies that happened in the election were just mathematically inconsistent, right? From just a foundational perspective. And so I was shocked because like Trump didn't get in office. It was Joe Biden. And so it humbled me, right? The rug pull of like me believing in this and then like getting pulled back, like made me sit back and be like, holy crap. Like I put bets on it. I was betting on my friends. I owed all these lobster dinners, right? Like it shook me, right? Like it really shook me going, what are you doing, G? Like, what are you doing here? And it really made me kind of reflect and think about what the problems really were, right? Was it the political problems? Was it the money? And so I stuck with Bitcoin, right? I was like, you know what? Like, it is what it is. I'm going to keep going and figure out what this is. And there was just one tweet that always like bugged me for whatever reason that I couldn't like get out of my head. And it was this one tweet that Trump made on May 31st. And it said, can you figure out the true meaning of Covfefe, right?
So, which was Covfefe.
Right? Like a misspelling or something.
Okay.
And so it always kind of bugged me. I'm like, what is this tweet? Because it was almost like a game to him. Like, what is this misspelling or whatever? And it went viral. Like it was one of the most viral things that happened online. And so like I would just Monte Carlo scenarios, everything on what that meant and what it did. And then like, funny enough, I'm like, let's just do just a basic like numbers to letters test. Like what is Covfefe? 3, 15, 22, 6565. Okay. And so when you kind of like see that pattern, just like, okay, 315, what does 315 mean? And then you start looking into like 315 and you're like, okay, what happened when Trump got into office? Well, the first thing he did when he got into office was he put Andrew Jackson's portrait in the actual Oval Office. Okay.
Amazing. The American Lion.
You're familiar with Andrew Jackson, right? He was the one that defeated the bankers. And you know, he, his birthday, funny enough, was 315.
Okay. No shit.
Yeah. Okay. He has the Hermitage in Nashville.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Trump was there actually on 315, giving him homage on like one of his campaign stops, funny enough.
Wow.
And so like what I want to like tell the audience now is like, this may seem a little bit weird, but you know, Tesla, right? Tesla said the magic, you know, the keys to the universe are 369. If you can figure out the keys to the universe, you know, you'd be able to figure things out. Tesla always stayed in rooms that were divisible by 3. Yeah. And so he believed there was like this natural frequency, this ether that was out there that could maybe manifest collective consciousness. Maybe you could get energy from it. Yeah. And so thinking of that, you know, Tesla's kind of been erased from history, you know, in that essence. And in going back and looking at what Tesla did, he died, and the first person that got access to his actual files, right, was John G. Trump, which is Trump's uncle at MIT.
What?
Yeah. And so you go back.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Trump's uncle
that's
worked.
That's not common knowledge, right? Or is that just me?
No, it's not totally. But Trump's uncle was like, worked for the FBI or something, but also worked at MIT. And so he was there collecting all the boxes, right, that were in Tesla's hotel room after he passed. And Tesla talked about an energy currency. Okay.
Right. I remember
Tesla talked about different,
that would end warfare too, right?
End wars, right?
Yeah.
This super weapon or whatever he called it.
Yeah.
And so he had all this technology, but like history books always talk about Edison. So you learned about Edison and this and that.
Sure.
But Tesla was like free energy, wireless power.
Yeah.
And like, that sounds way cooler than the shit we have today.
Yeah.
And so, what does all that mean? Right. And so my brain was, again, just like figuring out what this was, because the politics rug pulled me. So I was like, that doesn't matter. Like focus on what this other message is. And so then as you get into more of Covfefe, right? Back to Covfefe, right? 315, 22, 6565.
And you're doing so I'm clear on that. It's C is 3,
Right.
O is 15, V is 22, FE 6565.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Which
And
is
so-
just the sequence of them in the alphabet.
The sequence of them in the alphabet.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at, the 315th day of the year.
Can you pull that screen? Okay.
Yeah, the 315th day of the year is what? It's 11/11. Okay. And so 22, right, is 11/11. 6565 is 11/11. So really, Covfefe is almost just this like string of ones.
11.
11.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was just like, that's just kind of weird. So you start logging like patterns in your brain.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm no numerology guy.
Yeah.
I'm more of like a pattern guy. I don't know the esoteric meanings behind a lot of these numbers. I can try to describe it, but like from my research, it's just these patterns that keep popping up.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And so funny enough, like when MicroStrategy first bought Bitcoin on their balance sheet, Saylor goes in and he buys initially 17,000 Bitcoin, right? 17. Yeah. And then he buys an additional amount, but the average price per Bitcoin he paid was $11,111.11.
That's fucking crazy too.
And he actually came on my pod, right? Like a couple weeks ago. And he's like, well, sometimes the universe just has a way of like working itself out. I'm like, here's an MIT guy, super smart. Like he couldn't figure out how to like average price it out to that. Maybe not, right? And so you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then you get like a general like General Flynn, who tweeted about Bitcoin being evolutionary destiny, which is in the same realm of like the Jason Lowry stuff, right?
Who's General Flynn?
General Flynn was Trump's NSA director.
Okay.
And guess how many days in office he was there? 22 days.
Wow.
Not only that, but Flynn was pardoned 1,111 days after 11/11 or something crazy. Yeah. So like you want to get into these things. And so again, I don't know exactly what it means. I just know there's some special, again, ether out there that maybe the good guys are using to kind of manifest collective consciousness, call it like unity.
Yeah. As we were talking a little bit offline, it's like I always try to make these things just super practical, right? Who knows how far into the woo we can get with it. But if you just incorporated these numerical patterns into these different events and these different actions, that has a way of making them salient to people in a certain way that they otherwise would not be. So as we were saying, like, it's the more hops you have or the more connections you have between these different numerical patterns, the less coincidental it can possibly be, basically. Yeah. But you start to get away from, this is just some random intersection of events, and no, there's some intentionality behind this. Then you're questioning why. Why are these particular events the ones that are encoded in this way? And so you start to see teleology or intent, purpose underneath all of these things. And so that, again, the numerology thing, I don't know much about either, but at a minimal, it could be a way to amplify this subliminal message.
Exactly. Right. And I think Elon coined it like advanced technology is no different than magic.
Oh yeah. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which is, I think Robert Heinlein, who is the favorite science fiction author of Michael Saylor.
Correct. And so you could call it magic.
Yeah,
really,
it is fucking magic.
It's like meme magic in essence, what it is. Okay, and so as I keep going through these different coincidences, right? Back to QAnon, right? Because Q was like still very, very true in my mind because of the mathematical coincidences that happened, right? And then you start looking at the drops. The first time Q mentions bankers, central bankers, is on 11/11, and it's drop 135, right? 315, right? And so the 315 is like any combination of 315. Okay, it's kind of like this sequence that I've found. There's a pattern, at least. It can be in any sequence. It can be 135, 315. Okay, and so you see drop 135 is this. It lists all the Rothschild banks, and it says the Federal Reserve and the IRS are immune to U.S. laws, but basically owned by the Rothschilds. Okay, which is like, oh, I always thought that, but I wasn't really sure. Okay, and then you get a post like on 11/11 that talks about taxation without representation, or inflation is taxation without representation in the end list. Right, you get drops.
End the endless, Right.
You know, you get drops like "Nothing can stop what is coming" is not just a catchphrase. Are you ready to finish what we started? And that Q drop is on 1031, and we know what 1031 is. We know it's the white paper,
the day the Bitcoin white paper.
The day of the Bitcoin white paper, and okay, sorry,
which is something that can't be stopped, basically.
Like what else? Nothing can stop what is coming.
Yeah.
Like, does that mean Trump gets back in office for 4 years? Who cares, right? Like, I mean, well, he's there for 4 years. I mean, he's a man. He's a man. He's going to die at some point. And so, what is the solution that actually allows sapiens, humans, for us to not only protect our culture, right, but protect our freedom, protect our children's freedom for decades to come, right? This is Bitcoin is a solution that is not just a political temporary solution. And so these are really the context that I would look at this Covfefe stuff from. Okay. And, then you get into kind of like JFK. Okay. And so if you know JFK's executive order 11-11-0,
11-11-10,
okay, which is backing silver, right? Backing notes by silver,
taking power from the Fed, transferring it to the Treasury, basically, right?
Exactly. Which is kind of what Trump did
3 months before he was assassinated.
RFK confirmed that 11-11-0 was to rein in power from the Fed. And then you get things that happened during COVID, right? Like the Federal Reserve removed its reserve requirements to 0.0 on March 15th, right? I know we talked last.
So it's getting, both sides are playing this numerology game.
Possibly, yeah. What's the address of the IRS?
I don't know.
1111 Northwest. And if you look at Northwest on a compass, it's actually pointing to 315 and 135 on opposite turns.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, if you want to keep so the IRS building is literally located 1111, I think it's on Constitutional Avenue or whatever, and the coordinates northwest, if you look on a compass, right, the degrees, is like 135 and 315. And so you're like, oh man, like how deep does this go? And I know last time I mentioned I think maybe the internet was actually made just specifically for Bitcoin. You go back and look at when the first web domain was registered. What day was that? March 15th. So it just keeps coming up. And even Saylor talked about March 15th on some of your earlier pods, because March 15th was the day that settled all debts, right?
It was this the Ides of March kind of
Ides of March, right? Julius Caesar was assassinated, right?
Fuck.
But it was also the day that all debts were settled.
Okay.
March 15th. And so anyways, you just keep getting like these like repeating. And so what does this all mean, G? Like what, like this is all like crazy conspiracy stuff. But I think the overall message in some of this numerology and stuff is that there's some kind of good guy, maybe white hat dog whistle, where they're like talking to each other, but not really. Jack Dorsey, when Bitcoin first hit 22K, he posted 11+11. I think even Elon has some. Oh, it's the first time Elon tweets about Elon got he converted like his treasury guy at Tesla, whatever, to master of coin.
Oh yeah,
on 315. Okay. Right, and so we all know coin is also counterinsurgency from the last pod we did.
Yes.
And we think about what Tesla's doing now with Starlink. Okay, you have Trump implementing Space Force on 12/20, so you get like a 22 there or whatever, but.
Sorry, real quick.
Okay, I know I'm going.
The counterinsurgency coin, it probably warrants us revisiting that because that's a major thesis of yours. So Just maybe unpack that.
So
high level for us.
So the counterinsurgency guide was a military guide put out in January of 2009. Okay, and so this guide,
which is the same time Bitcoin was released.
The Bitcoin Genesis block came out. Which, by the way, the Genesis Bitcoin block is timestamped January 3rd at 10:15:05. Another 3:15. You keep going through that. And so this guide was put out, and so this counterinsurgency guide was actually abbreviated COIN, right? So COIN, counterinsurgency. Well, what is the definition of COIN, right? And so the definition of counterinsurgency COIN is a military and civilian effort taken to simultaneously defeat and contain insurgency and its root causes.
Wow.
Okay. And if you think about what is insurgency, insurgency is basically shadow government. Okay. Q posted all the time about insurgency and shadow government. Funny enough, on dates like May 31st, on dates like 5/13.
Right.
Q actually posted the COIN manual the same day as the Okefenokee tweet, 5/31. Okay. And so if you want to talk about like 315, 531, Okefenokee, the COIN manual from Q drops on 5/31. Okay. Which is, again, the Okefenokee stuff. And so the counterinsurgency is, okay, so to follow this up, right? Like bit is obviously digits of information, right?
Yeah.
COIN could be
the resolution of uncertainty, right? The bit. This is this Claude Shannon's fundamental measurement of information, basically. Yeah.
Correct, right? And then COIN, if you take the government abbreviated guide, is counterinsurgency. And so if we are living in a battle between insurgents and counterinsurgents, it's actually a battle over legitimacy, funny enough.
And it's a battle over information. Which the bit is the fundamental building block of information.
Exactly. Well, not only that, but if you look at the guide, it puts in information, security, and economics into a political strategy. So there's three components. Wow. Three, right? Three is another Tesla thing.
Yeah.
Three components: information, security, economics into a political strategy. And so those three components, if you think about it, a military and civilian alliance, maybe Bitcoin is more than just some guy in his basement. And I think, and this is why you shouldn't talk about who Satoshi is. You shouldn't. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if humans knew, right, that, hey, maybe there's a good chance this was produced for you guys to use as a weapon against tyranny.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't we be telling everybody, hey guys,
Right.
And so what is legitimacy, Robert, in today's day and age? Legitimacy is consent.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm consenting to you having power over me, I'm voting for you, I'm doing this and that, I'm paying my federal income tax. But if we stopped filing our federal income tax, this is digital 1776, right? And we have Trump now coming out more and more against taxation. We have, first he started with no tax on tips. Then he went to no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. Now he's like, hey, we don't even need a tax.
All tariffs.
Yeah, we don't.
Which is how we used to do it, by the way, right? 100%. There was no income tax. It was all tariffs. There's one other thing.
Sales tax, I think.
Sales tax, maybe,
maybe some of that
stuff.
So
there was no income tax prior to World War I.
Prior to 1913, the same year the Federal Reserve was instituted.
Of course. IRS was instituted a few months after the Fed, income tax,
And then you go back to the Grace Commission. Okay, the Grace Commission was Executive Order 12369, which was done by Ronald Reagan. Okay. And so Ronald Reagan talked about the Grace Commission to where they went and researched all your federal income tax, what actually it went to. And they found out that $0 in 1982 went towards public service. It all went to interest on the debt, which back then we didn't have as much debt. We have over almost 35.1 trillion or 36 trillion right now. And so if you think about that, right, we're literally living in slavery, in bondage. And Bitcoin is the weapon. You get more to the Jason Lowry thesis, of hey, how do individuals maintain their sovereignty and take their power back?
Peacefully. It's paradoxical because it's like a weapon of peace in a way.
A weapon of peace, but also a redo of 1776.
Yes.
In the leap year, and you get to, I think it's what Bitcoin was actually made like in 2009, I think, right? The Genesis block. I think if you look at from when the Genesis block was created until, right, the next year is a leap year. So it's actually 369 days after the Genesis block or whatever, January 3rd, you get this 1 year delta. And so,
when Trump was installed, is that what you're saying?
No,
what's January 3rd?
Well, like January 3rd through like the first year of Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It's like 369 days. So I just think there's like these
369.
369. There's like these little innuendos of Bitcoin that are happening in the ether.
Yeah.
And so, there is a natural harmonics to a lot of different things in the world, right? Natural harmony, we know like 432 megahertz is like very soothing for our bodies, right? And now music is intentionally put out with bad harmonics or bad, frequencies.
Yeah, same with the blue light, red light thing, right?
Blue light, red light thing. And so it's all frequencies, it's all vibration, it's all energy.
Yeah.
And if we, I think, understood that, which by the way, I don't understand a lot of it at all.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a pattern guy. I've been researching this Q stuff. I'm researching Bitcoin. I'm researching Trump. Like, I'm putting all these together. I hope other individuals that are experts in this can help maybe unpack more of that, because I'm just kind of, I think, scratching the surface on some of this.
Have you ever wanted to live in an off-grid community with complete food, energy, and water independence? If so, then you need to check out the farm at Okefenokee. The farm is a pioneering community designed to foster longevity and well-being, eliminating elements that detract from these goals. At the farm, the convergence of nature, nutritious food, a supportive community, and the ethos of slowing down is unparalleled. Positioned at the gateway to the UNESCO World Heritage nominated Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, the farm at Okefenokee stands as a testament to a lifestyle that truly nurtures health and happiness. Unlike conventional housing developments where a token communal garden may suffice, the farm itself is the community. Small, intimate micro-villages seamlessly integrate into the fabric of a sprawling agricultural community. So if you're interested in joining this off-grid community, then go to okefarm.com today to learn more about becoming a member. Make sure to tell them that I sent you for a $21,000 discount on their custom cabin pricing. Again, go to okefarm.com to learn more about joining this revolutionary regenerative agriculture community. Forget multivitamins and other supplements. Animal organs are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You can get 100 times more nutrients from organs than you can from muscle meats. But the problem with eating organs is that they are difficult to find in stores, they are difficult to prepare, and even when they are prepared well, they often don't taste great. Thankfully, Heart and Soil Supplements has made consuming organ meats so much easier by providing powderized organs in capsule form. Organ meats include everything your body needs to thrive: vitamins, minerals, peptides, proteins, and growth factors. This is why organ meats were the most prized foods for our ancestors. Fortunately for us, Heart and Soil makes these treasured foods easily accessible. So go to heartandsoil.co today and use discount code BREEDLOVE to get started on your journey to optimal health and vitality. Again, that's heartandsoil.co, discount code BREEDLOVE. Have you ever wanted to start a business in the Bitcoin space? If so, then the Wolf Startup Accelerator could be for you. Wolf is the first startup accelerator dedicated exclusively to businesses developing in the Bitcoin Lightning Network. 4 times each year, Wolf brings teams from around the world to New York City to work with like-minded entrepreneurs, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with Bitcoin and Lightning. The program is designed to help early-stage companies achieve product-market fit, develop their brand, secure early-stage funding, and grow businesses that fuel the global adoption of Bitcoin. Go to wolfnyc.com to learn more or apply today. Again, that's Wolf, WOLF, I would think it's probably, if we're just entertaining this possibility that there is some white hat good guy encrypting these messages into the ether to kind of plant these seeds in the collective unconscious that will blossom into, the next stage of individual liberty, something like that. It would make sense, I think, actually, that it was done in this way, right? It needs to be kind of a mysterious, you can't just come out and tell people, right? It's like, that's not, when you read a good story, they don't just come out and tell you who did it at the end, right? Or how it's going to conclude. It needs to draw you in, right? There needs to be this mystique, this mystery.
A filter, a natural selection filter almost.
Yeah. Yeah. And then but it makes it more engaging. Like it's almost like they know about the human relationship with narrative and mythology. And so you start to craft the message in that way. It's not telling you what something is, but it's kind of inviting you to come and look into these connections for yourself. And so even this work that you're doing now is like, it could be it's working, right? It's like we're captivated. We're talking about it right now, and we're energizing it. We're amplifying it. So it was just fascinating to think about.
Yeah, I think it's almost like an awakening of old DNA.
Yeah.
Really kind of weird to put it that way, but it's like I think we all have these like primitive like backstories.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh wait, I think I remember something. You know, and I don't really know.
So it is magical at that point.
Sometimes it is, I think. Yeah. You know, to that point. And then so, you know, you continue down this line of like these numerology sequences, and then you get into like for instance, the SEC. Okay. And so you get into Trump. Okay. When he was in office, he hired Steve Mnuchin. Okay. And Steve Mnuchin, funny enough, hired a guy by the name of Brian Brooks. Okay. When he was in office. And Brian Brooks made it legal for banks to custody Bitcoin, right? In the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, which is 315. There's a 315 in OCC, right? Yeah. And it was called like a direct order and a direct initiative, I think they call it in the OCC. And the direct initiative order was, 1170. Okay, so 1170. And then you look at when Trump tweeted about Bitcoin, calling it like, seemed like a scam or whatever. It was on July 11th, 7/11. Huh. And then you get these 7/11 references. And so you're like, what are they doing here? And then you're like, well, who's the 77th SEC chair? Oh, well, it's Gary Gensler. What are Gary's initials? Well, GG, 77. You're like, holy shit. Wait a minute. But then didn't like the SEC pass SAB 121, which blocked banks from custodying Bitcoin, which 11 times 11 is 121. You're like, wait, what? And so you just keep getting these like, I think Gary Gensler is actually a good guy, funny enough, in this whole scheme of things. Because if you think about it.
Because unpack that. Because Trump at the Bitcoin conference was like, day one, I'm going to fire Gary Gensler and everyone's going crazy. So how is that?
Yeah, so I think Trump, again, he's been playing like 5D chess this entire time, right? And so Gary Gensler, first off, like if we would have just like said, hey, altcoins are bad, we're going to ban them all, you can only buy Bitcoin, would like any of us learned anything? Right. We've never really had like true real capitalism of like, getting wrecked on a shitcoin or just going down these rabbit holes and just losing all your money. Yeah. And so I think that's actually part of like our nature is we've never had like these predators. We've always been protected by like walls and like, bumpers and stuff.
We're getting undomesticated.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it was kind of like this undomesticated, okay, here, you know what? You guys think you're so smart? Go trade it, go do whatever you want, and we'll see who's smart at the end of the day. So like Gary Gensler just kind of left it alone. But then he'd selectively attack companies, right? He selectively attacked Ripple, or like the SEC did, I guess, back when Trump was in office, which I think was kind of a necessary thing because of Facebook Libra and some of the stuff they were doing. Funny enough, Elon blew up Facebook's, Zionist satellite. So the Libra satellite that was supposed to go off, it blew up on the tarmac, right?
Really?
Yes, and that was launching the Libra coin internet network. And now we have Starlink. Yeah, so if you want to get into like...
It blew like...
on the launch pad. It just...
So it was I'm sure the story is there was some failure, equipment failure, whatever. But then does that mean Elon was liable for that, or was it...
Well, I think it just means that like
Meta was
they probably... Well, I think Elon was liable for it, but I think it meant like they kind of probably blew it up on purpose.
Just to stop it from it.
Right. Libra coin, whatever satellite was in there, it probably would have been, potentially harmful, right? As we know, satellites with Starlink now are so helpful. But anyways, back to Gary Gensler. So you get back to Gary Gensler and you're like, okay, well, here's this dude. I was literally like a Bitcoin maximalist, I think teaching it at MIT in some sense, right? But then you got Trump saying he's going to fire him. A lot of the crypto bros don't like him because he selectively goes after, files Wells notices after them. And you're like, well, what's the 5D strategy here? Well, get the crypto vote, right? Like, let's get as many crypto bros on board as we can. So they don't like Gary Gensler. So I'm going to say I'm going to fire him day one, okay? maybe Gary Gensler serves Trump with a Wells notice for launching his World Liberty financial coin. Okay. And then maybe, right, if that happens, then for sure he's going to get the crypto vote, right? And so people need to start thinking like, oh, he's a shitcoiner. Oh, he's just like, guys, you guys are thinking like way too like normie level.
Yeah.
Like this is a master chess game and you guys are playing it like
checkers.
You guys are playing with Play-Doh, basically. And so
is that a prediction then that you think Gensler will serve Trump with a Wells notice before the election?
11 days. I guess we'll find out.
11 days from now. All right.
I guess we'll find out. But also, it's another Trojan horse. Like if he goes after that hard, maybe it's a Trojan horse to wipe out the rest of the shitcoins at some point.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Because that would set up future anti-shitcoin regulation, basically.
You never know, right? Yeah. You never know. So these are just theories, right? And again, take them for what they will. But as we get into this more, you know, Bitcoiners have completely ignored the capital markets, in my opinion. Okay. Here's $115 trillion that has been corrupt since day one, right? The SEC actually are the initials from the initial Charles Ponzi. Charles Ponzi named it, and his company was named the Securities Exchange Company. It literally has the same initials.
I didn't know that.
And
I didn't know that.
If you look at the Securities Exchange Company, right, he was selling stuff that he didn't have, right? He was fractionally selling it.
Yeah.
Okay. In today's day and age, Gary Gensler again admitted that 90% of the trading that happens on Wall Street is done in dark pools.
Yeah.
Okay. Meaning we have no ability to actually see what's happening behind the scenes. You know, you just had Ian Carroll on, right? And he tracked all the GameStop stuff.
Yeah.
Did those shorts ever get closed?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
And so you have this Deposit Trust Clearing Corporation, the DTCC.
That technically owns everything.
Technically owns everything, right? We don't have any legal custody of equities in this entire game. And so back to more of like, you know, what this means. Well, I believe tokenization on Bitcoin is going to be one of the biggest things that Bitcoiners are just completely ignoring at this point. And funny enough, Robert, Pepe the Frog comes into this as well as part of Okefenokee. Okay. And so, okay, G, where are we going with this now? And so if you go back and look at when Trump first tweeted himself as Pepe the Frog, it was actually October 13th, 2015. And you're like, all right, that's okay. Okay, maybe there's something here, but like, you know,
10/13/15.
He tweets himself as Pepe the Frog. It says like, don't stump the Trump, right? It's some like tweet he kind of retweets, but then like puts himself as Pepe.
This is the one with the smug kind of pose.
Yep, at the smug pose. Yeah. Exactly. And so you've got him at the thing. You've got other people tweeting themselves as Pepe, Don Jr., and then all of a sudden you've got Hillary Clinton, right, who comes out massively against Pepe on 9/11. Okay, 9/11, she comes out massively against Pepe. I guess it was the next year. I forget the sequence anyway. But
it's like, why would, if Pepe is not something, why the fuck would Hillary Clinton come out massively against this?
Yeah, which brings more attention to it. Brings more attention to it. Wow. Right? ADL labels that a hate symbol.
A hate symbol. What was their official story?
Because it was like anti-Semitic, right? People were putting like Nazi flags with Pepe holding it. Like anybody can draw Pepe, right? It's an easy frog to draw.
All right.
But Pepe is littered across all the Q drops. Okay, like littered across like national security. Like, how must we communicate this way? By the way, the Okefenokee Act was the Electronic Communications Act. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is electronic communications.
Wait, the Okefenokee Act? This is
in Congress.
There's a Okefenokee Act.
There's a Okefenokee Act. Yeah.
So when he put out that tweet saying, "What is Okefenokee?"
I think they just like after the fact like came up with it because of the stuff, but it actually ended up being about electronic communications.
Wow.
Which, you know, at its base layer, Bitcoin is an unhackable communication system.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like if the good guys had a plan, right, the first thing they need is an ability to communicate with each other securely.
This is, I mean, if you've never seen the movie The Imitation Game, I would highly recommend that. It's a fucking amazing movie. But again, warfare begins and ends with the flow of information. If you can intercept your adversary's communications, then you can preempt them at every step of the way. And that movie beautifully kind of plays out how that worked in World War. I think it was World War II.
World War II, yeah.
Where they were trying to decrypt the Nazis' communication device. I forgot the name of it.
Enigma. No,
Enigma.
Enigma.
Yeah, Enigma. And so, yeah, that makes sense. If you're going to be this counterinsurgency, the first order of business is unhackable communications.
That's got to be the first. That's got to be primary, numero uno. And so, the COFEFE Act, right? The act of communications, electronic communications.
Sorry, we should probably connect that. How is Bitcoin unhackable? Like, what is it? Because most people think Bitcoin money, but they don't know Bitcoin communication network. So how do we leverage Bitcoin to be an unhackable communications network?
Yeah, well, let's just talk about the core principles of it, right? Let's talk about, SHA-256, right? The hashing algorithm that literally is U.S. military nuclear-proof technology that is used to securely communicate nuclear codes, right? That can't be hacked. You have GPS timing. By the way, GPS, probably one of the most underrated features of Bitcoin, of timestamps.
Yeah, for sure.
This entire world runs on timestamps.
Yeah.
Okay, and GPS isn't about locating things. It's literally about timestamps.
Yes.
And the integrity of the Bitcoin network is about timestamps.
Yes.
If you don't have that, you don't know what happened in the past. You can't do things in the future.
This is why we often call it triple entry bookkeeping, because you've gone from debits and credits to debits, credits, timestamp, basically.
Yeah, and some people don't call them coins. Some people call them stamps.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because you have a timestamp of when this block was found or whatever. And so
and to edify what that is, the timestamp is basically it's an irrefutable point in time in digital space, where it's you can't argue that this thing was published at this time, basically, right? So it's establishing trusted coordination in cyberspace.
It's proof of real.
Proof of real. Yeah, there we go.
As actually Jason Laurie quoted in his book Software, to where we have a hard time establishing what is real, what is fake, with everything that's thrown at us. And so timestamps are literally proof of real in a proof of work network, right? Because you have complete decentralization, you have proof of work, and so every element to that gives you that proof of real. And then you have, you have TCP/IP, right? You've got every element of Bitcoin that's basically military technology.
Yeah.
And there's ways you can communicate on it, right? You can sign messages. You can do things to where only certain individuals can decode, right, certain things. And so back to Pepe the Frog, right? Because I believe this tokenization system could be the actual, Bitcoin could be the Trojan horse for tokenization. Because you see every shitcoin out there, what's their main attraction, right? It's smart contracts. They all want smart contracts. Why do they, Bitcoin can be money, but we want to be smart contracts. Okay, so back to Wall Street, okay? Funny enough, this gentleman, Patrick Byrne, who was a CEO of Overstock, okay, was one of the first companies to accept Bitcoin on their website. Okay, he speaks 3 different languages. He speaks Chinese. He's an interesting character. He went IPO with his. Before that, he was getting naked short selling against his company. So what these hedge funds would do is they would take out the naked shorts. Yeah, they would pay for bad media publicity. Yeah, and they just short the hell out of it. Right. And so if you think about that for the last 100 years. Imagine if you wanted to suppress technologies from different companies, Robert.
Yeah, just naked short them.
Just naked short them.
And if you got the fucking money printer and you don't need a naked short, is basically you don't own the stock, right? You're shorting it without owning it, which typically you have to own the underlying to actually short it.
Correct.
But this is doing it without that. It's a fucking scam, basically.
It's a total scam, and not only that. So Patrick Byrne, when he sued Goldman Sachs for this thing, he spent $30 million. What they found out was these companies were doing something that nobody really knew about, which was called securities lending. Okay, what is securities lending? Well, a prime broker goes out and they have to, the hedge funds that want a naked short, they have to find a locate. They have to locate that stock somewhere. Okay, and so a hedge fund will go locate this, and they'll pay. Okay, they'll pay whatever the fee is to lend, right, to borrow that stock to naked short sell it. But they don't actually take custody of it. Right. And so what do? They actually rehypothecate that naked short sell. So they say they have one
double
share.
Double spending. This is the double spend problem.
And then they lend it out to 5 different people. Saying, so they're all naked short selling this one stock, but there's only one.
Yes.
And so that's what you had with GameStop, right? The float was the float short was way above what the actual number of shares were.
Right. Because we don't have proof of real.
We don't have proof of real. We don't have any transparency.
That's so fucking crazy. So the double spend problem, which is the problem Bitcoin solved, that's a manifestation of that. all of the
correct.
The rehypothecation is double spending of stock shares, basically.
And so like Bitcoiners got to come to terms with like Wall Street has to be taken out too. You can't just take out the money system. The capital markets are literally the base of the pyramid. Okay. Capital markets is what allows the dollar to be the reserve currency of the world. Okay. And the SEC actually came out and said this. They said capital markets, easy investments into assets is what stabilizes the dollar, makes it cheap for lending, makes it all these different things. So if you think about that context, well, what are we going to use as Bitcoiners? We can't use layer one. Like we can't even use layer one eventually for transactions. The block space, we just don't have enough room, right? And this is where scaling comes into play. Okay. And so here we have this, this protocol named Counterparty. Okay. This is a layer 2 protocol on op return that was put out in 2014. It basically like copied the Ethereum smart contract code and just said, oh, we're going to do this on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay. And what it did was, for those that wanted this token, because there is a token associated with it called XCP, you had to send Bitcoin to a provably unspendable Bitcoin address. Okay.
So to burn it.
We had to burn it.
Yeah.
And so if you think about that, that's completely decentralized in a sense, because there's no ICO, there's no guy that makes magic coins out of thin air. Protocol is all open source. And there was a certain burn period, right? The burn period only lasted for like, I think a few months.
Oh, okay? Wow.
So there's a finite supply of these. You can't burn any more Bitcoin. It's all done back in 2014.
And you can't get any more XCP.
You can on the market.
Secondary market.
Yeah, there's like 2 million shares or something out there.
Okay.
And so if you think about the law of thermodynamics, okay, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. So sending Bitcoins to a burn address isn't destroying energy. It's actually transforming energy into something different, something scalable. Right. Okay, because you can create tokens. These tokens are named assets. Funny enough, we have a Breedlove token as part of my Bitcoin NFT project because we wanted to memorialize your work on, as for Bitcoin.
Oh, I'm honored.
We have a sailor one. I'll show it to you later. And so we've been like documenting, journalizing a lot of these things to like say, hey, this is some of the stuff we found and we're putting it on the block because we want proof of real understanding what this is. Okay. And so, again, as we're learning, how do you scale Bitcoin to 8.2 billion people, right? And I think the Trojan horse of why Satoshi still has his 1.1 million coins, I think he may actually send it to the counterparty burn address at some point. And then like the Bitcoiners are going to have to come to terms with what this is, right? Because if you think of the Trojan horse, okay, what's the Trojan horse to tokenization? Transforming energy. If you had 1.1 million coins and you transitioned it into tokenization, you have now de facto claimed this is the tokenization.
And then how does Counterparty then anchor to the real world asset itself? Aren't you still trusting some third party intermediate layer?
To some degree,
to have that peg.
Yeah.
So how does?
Well, and I don't really know how that actually transitions to real world assets at some point. I know like there's people working on it. But how does that work in Wall Street right now? Right, you don't hold an Nvidia share in your bank account. No. It's just some IOU out there.
Yes, the DTCC has a loyal title on every fucking thing, every equity. They own the entire stock market, and you get like a user share.
Borrow it or something.
Yeah, but you don't own it. All right, if you ever go to court, they basically go to court and it's all centrally owned. So maybe I could see where Counterparty is like, if that failed, we'd need some type of substitute system to deal with real world assets, equities, et cetera. I don't know that Counterparty is that, but a decentralized solution to that would be ideal.
Yeah, and people need to take custody of their assets. If you want to trade an asset, an equity, like we should be able to do it without having to go through a third party.
And everything, right? Cars, like any asset, houses, any real world asset. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, what does it eliminate the ability for them to do? Confiscate it, tax it, right? You can tokenize your identity, voting. I mean, but it all brings transparency to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, and because what do you use on your everyday life? Do you use more tokens or Bitcoin every day? Your ID is a token.
Yeah,
right. Everything you're dealing with is like literally, but they're all fiat tokens.
Yeah.
But imagine if you had actual proof of real in everything you could identify, and there's no way to hack it. That's the ultimate Trojan horse of tokenization. That's how you spread Bitcoin to 8.2 billion people, in my opinion.
Wow, interesting.
And so back to this Pepe the Frog, okay? Because you've got this weird synchronicities with this frog, and then you have this random person that came up with this thing called Rare Pepe. Okay, and this thing was minted on 9/9. Funny enough, 2 days before Hillary Clinton goes and attacks the frog. Literally 2 days before, this random person who still nobody knows who it is mints this thing called Rare Pepe. And it's a Bitcoin NFT. And it's literally got 315 in like the description. And you're like, okay, not only that, but September 9th is the day Ronald Reagan closed out Executive Order 11110.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, why did he close it? Why did he finish that off for whatever reason? So there's like these weird synchronicities with some of the 9/9 date, and then you have this random token being minted. And then you have like the 315th card being a mirror of like the first one. So Rare Pepe, then 315 is Pepe Rare. And then you get Series 3 card 15, you got Putin with a smug look.
Oh yeah. So Trump was the smug look on the first one, and then you get Putin with a smug look on the second.
And so I don't know what these mean.
And what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean this what? That Trump and Putin are working together?
Okay, so well, to some degree, yeah, maybe. Yeah. And so backing up a little bit, the first token made on Counterparty was called Test, T-E-S-T. Okay. And there's a Q drop on January 13th that says SEC Test, and I'm like, everyone thinks it's security, like, oh, a security test, they're testing, but what if it's really a Securities Exchange Commission test, right? Like, what if this is the new decentralized stock market? And then you have another drop on January 13th that talks literally about Charles Ponzi. And I'm like, and you're like, okay, this is just, and so again, I'm just building patterns here for people.
Yeah.
And I think the more like hits you get to these patterns, you're like, okay, man, there's something weird going on here. I can't totally explain it. But if you understand Pepe being in the Q drops, you understand Pepe, Trump on 10/13/2015, you get to this really weird card called the Games of Trump, which like is on our shirts right now, right? So it's Trump, it's Trump on a dragon, okay, with a bunch of 17s on it.
Yeah.
At the bottom. The issuance is like 1717.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was issued 2 months before Q ever dropped anything. Okay. And so 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. And so you've just got this, well, this is proof of some event happening in the past that proves the future in some weird way. But like, and so I'm not making this up. Like, it's all open source intelligence. Anybody can go look at it.
No. Okay. So that's fucking interesting. So let's restate that for emphasis. You're saying that through this medium of numerology, in a way, that this Trump fucking card is so funny that this is the thing, right? It's like Trump fraud riding a dragon. This is like, what? How is that significant? But that's the thing. That presaged the Q drop.
Yes.
Which was the first Q drop?
Yeah. First Q drop is like October 28th, 2017.
Okay, so this is like the Trump card indicating that here comes this Q drop, and now understood retrospectively, that would indicate that Trump is telling you that Q is worth listening to.
I don't know.
Proof of real. Okay. Ooh. Whoa.
Right. And so a lot of people don't even know about this. But to me, it's one of the biggest proofs of any of this operation. Even, funny enough, what did HBO just come out with? Right. They found Satoshi.
Oh yes.
Yeah, what's the other documentary that same person had? He did a documentary on QAnon saying he found out who QAnon was. And so the same guy found out Satoshi and QAnon.
Well, he didn't find out Satoshi for sure, because Peter Todd is definitely not fucking Satoshi.
So if he didn't find out Satoshi, he probably didn't find.
Oh, so this is their counter.
Yes, this is the CIA Mossad version of it's all bullshit.
Wow.
Right? You see these narratives of war going on. But like, first of all, we also have back to the numerology stuff, just because I want to emphasize a couple more. Okay, Nayib Bukele. This, by the way, just came out a couple months ago. He's doing the interview with Tucker Carlson, and he's talking about how he petitioned to multiple parties to be on the ballot before the cutoff. And then he goes, the night before the cutoff at 11:11 p.m., I found a party that would accept me in until I could run as president. Oh, that's weird. And think about the whole El Salvador situation. Like, Bitcoin is just like, he put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and just totally arrested 55,000 MS-13 people. Like, you don't think there was maybe some military help from, like, I mean, MS-13 has literally, they were integrated into every institution they had. Unless you had some deep operation going on, there was no way to get rid of these people from their country.
Do you want to give your kids a foundation of freedom and understanding of Bitcoin and a healthy skepticism of government? Then you should try Tuttle Twins. It's a cartoon about a grandma with a time-traveling wheelchair who takes her grandkids on hilarious adventures to learn about economics and freedom. Think the education of Magic School Bus meets the comedy of The Simpsons. With Tuttle Twins, your kids can learn about Bitcoin from Satoshi Nakamoto, civil disobedience from Harriet Tubman, natural rights from John Locke, and how to destroy the economy from Karl Marx. Today, Hollywood greenlights a lot of woke content or mindless garbage. Each episode of Tuttle Twins is parent-funded, parent-vetted, and only released when it's parent-approved. Because Tuttle Twins is fan-funded, it was the world's first kids show to teach about Bitcoin. That episode alone has been seen over 40 million times and was tweeted about by Michael Saylor. You can watch episodes of Tuttle Twins for free right now. And if you like what you see, you can use code BREEDLOVE for 10% off a subscription to the Angel Studios app and watch all of the episodes. So go to angel.com/breedlove to discover Tuttle Twins today. And remember to use code BREEDLOVE for 10% off. One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove. Kalshi is the first legal prediction market in which you can bet on the outcome of any future event that you're interested in, such as the US presidential election, inflation rates, or when the next version of ChatGPT will be released. Let's say you think Trump will win the US presidential election, and let's say the market is pricing his odds of winning at 50%. So you can then buy 100 shares of a Trump victory at 50 cents each, so that would be $50 for 100 shares. And if you're right, you will get $100 back and double your money, but you could also sell early. If Trump's odds of winning went up to, say, 70%, you could sell for 70 cents each and lock in a $20 profit. And even if you don't want to trade, you can go and just watch the live odds to see who is more likely to win the race. And Kalshi has hundreds of markets just like this for you to go and play in. So go to kalshi.com/breedlove today to start playing in this predictions market. The first 500 traders who deposit $50 will get a free $20 credit. Again, that is kalshi.com, kalshi.com/breedlove. So MS-13, I don't know this term, actually. I just know that Bukele arrested most of the gang influence inside of his country and turned El Salvador from the murder capital to one of the most peaceful countries in Central America, more or less overnight, a couple of years, I guess. What is this? What is MS-13?
So, I mean, MS-13 was a gang that actually originated in Los Angeles, funny enough, right? There's these El Salvadorian gangs, right, that would in the jails, and then they built this network of criminals, and then they slowly, would go back to their own country, and El Salvador was the scariest place on earth, right? It had the highest death rate in the entire world.
Yeah. They call it the murder capital of the world.
Murder capital of the world.
Yeah.
And there was information in the Q drops that talked about MS-13 being possibly like the hitman for the Democrat Party, right? The security guard in the Las Vegas was MS-13, funny enough, right? Yeah, you get these weird MS-13 coincidences. They say the guy that killed Seth Rich, right? The Democrat who put all the information about Hillary Clinton's server, or the WikiLeaks emails, was done by MS-13, right? They never found the killers, right? MS-13. And so that goes into this other rabbit hole of like, look, Bitcoiners, like Nayib Bukele, right? He's a patriot, but I don't think he was able to clean out an entire country of gang members by himself.
Right.
That just doesn't pass the like common sense test.
Right.
Maybe there was some other underground, like, you've got Eric Prince, who was an operator who possibly helped in that, and so there's other theories there.
And is that would be a great initial success story for Bitcoin, right? Of the peacemaking capacity of Bitcoin. El Salvador means the savior. There's all that kind of Christian connotation, the Christic connotation, really.
Absolutely.
To turn a place from the murder capital of the world to literally one of the most peaceful places in Central America and on the path to become one of the most prosperous, right? If Bitcoin continues to succeed, they have the decentralized health going on down there, this, anti-shitcoin securities framework, like they're setting themselves out to be a true capitalistic country, basically.
Yeah.
That, if you were playing that game, and you want proof of real that Bitcoin can turn a country around, I don't think you could pick a better one than El Salvador.
You couldn't. You really couldn't. Yeah. And so I think that's a unique situation. And I think, again, a lot of people are missing the signal there. They're just taking it at face value and not thinking about like really what went on. Trump and Nayib made a deal. We don't know the underground stuff of what actually went on.
Yeah.
But look, he's turned the country around, right? Props to Nayib, right? I'm not trying to take any credit away from him.
No.
Let's be honest. But he just like the 11/11 hit. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would you say that time? So
he's just part of a bigger story, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Yeah. Right. And then you get Elon. Okay. But again, I want to really emphasize this counterparty stuff. I think it's really massive. There might be some even alpha for you degens out there, right? To look more into this. So back to Elon, and he dumped 31,500 shares. Remember when Tesla dumped a bunch of shares that then sent FTX, I think, into collapse? And then what day did Bankman-Fried file Chapter 11? 11/11. No. And what is Bankman-Fried? Fried Bankman. It's mimetic. Literally the fried Bankman filing Chapter 11 on 11/11. You couldn't make up a more perfect story there, right? So yeah, see, I'm going to continue to just blow your mind with these numbers.
So what does that then mean? What is the truth then of Bankman-Fried? He was a fall boy for
probably. Yeah, I mean, look
which
how much
side. I'm lost.
Well,
now.
I mean, how much money? All the money was funneled to Democrats. Right? He was the biggest donor to Democrats.
Okay.
Just printed all that money, and then basically went bankrupt, and all the money went to the Democratic donors. Wow. It was like literally a Ponzi.
Wow.
And then who got all the money?
Fuck.
Yeah. And so we keep going through this stuff, right? And you keep going to what is it? Michael Saylor even came out with an economics class in Saylor University recently. And it was Econ 135. And I was like, and it was right after he came on our show too. And I was like, are you messing with me, man? Why'd you call it economics 101 or 100? You called it Econom 135, right? So there's all these 135s that keep kind of coming into
And what's
play
in the course?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's your series.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, the What Is Money series.
What
They
Is
did
Money
135.
Series.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then if you go back and look at What Is Money series 135, the episode is actually Follow the Money. And funny enough, in the Q drops.
Wait, our episode 135 is titled Follow the Money?
Yeah.
See, this shit. All right, now I'm like,
I know.
we just fucking name those episodes.
I know. I'm just saying, there's just some weird synchronicity there.
No, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm tapped into something I don't understand.
You don't understand. But yeah, and a lot of the Q drops.
Because then you said the 315 episode was Lowry too, right?
Yeah, 315 was Lowry.
All right.
And then you get, what is it? The 135, and then I lost my train of thought there. But
sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah, no. So yes, where were we at here?
You're saying Sailor's Econ 135 that came out right after he was on
right
show.
after he was on our show.
And then you're asking oh, you messing with me, dude? Why would you call it 135?
Yeah. And so so Follow the Money is in basically a lot of the Q drops. It says follow the money.
Sure,
it's the key.
Yeah.
Right. And if you think, what is the key? What did Tesla say the key was to the universe? 369.
Yes.
Follow the money. It's the key. What is the key? 369. Is it back to Tesla again? You know, into the numerology stuff. And so you get down these like weird rabbit holes to where it's like, okay, there's something significant here, but I don't really. And the counterparty burn address, funny enough, is one capital C, counterparty spelled out. Then it's 15 X's. So it's literally 1, 3, 15.
Wow. Sorry, the one thing that was just coming to mind, and I would just encourage people to go and check it out, but shit, I wish I could remember the Twitter profile. But someone's done a lot of work on the relationship between Bitcoin and Tesla's 369, like all the 369 mathematics that are built into the Bitcoin protocol, origin story, et cetera. So that would be, it's an even more interesting rabbit hole to go down now.
Well, and so let's talk about that, right? Because again, back to the games of Trump. Okay, you have Trump on a dragon, 17s all over the place. And right now we are in the year of the dragon. Okay. And Trump just came out for Bitcoin at Bitcoin Nashville, the home of Andrew Jackson. Okay. In the epoch where every block is 3.125.
Right.
Okay.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So 3.125 every block. Every day is 450 blocks, 450, 3 times 15. And then every month it's 13,500 blocks. So you have the synchronicity of like, we're literally in the Covfefe epoch. And if you keep like looking at this from that lens, like maybe this is the epoch, right? That really is some kind of weird transformation from, you know, whatever massive amounts of money printing or stock market crash or whatever's coming, because the memetics are so powerful, you know, in this frog. And, you know, we get into the ancients with the frog. Like, what is the frog god? Frog god is Kek. If you look at the old Kek god of frog, whatever, it looks like a person on a computer, right?
Wait, so in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, you're saying?
Yeah, right. So there's this frog god called Kek, frog god. And it's like literally like if you look at the hieroglyphics, it like resembles a person on a computer. And what is Kek? K is the 11th letter. So it's 1111 again. You get back to 1111. You get back to, you know, Bible verses of the frogs to destroy them. Okay.
To destroy the Pharaoh god kings.
Right. Yeah. And if you think about frogs, right? Well, maybe these are Pepes. And in the Q drops, it says, and frogs to destroy them. Right? Because in the Q drops, it says frogs to destroy them. So if they meant that literally, that meant that this protocol of tokenization was the ultimate goal. And maybe Bitcoin was that kind of Trojan horse to get to tokenization, to anchor it. And then the frogs literally from Pepe. Because I look at these as almost like historical artifacts of war, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you can prove some of the stuff happened in the past, well, what happened in the past?
Right.
There's also this technology called steganography, where you can hide encoded messages inside of artwork. So were they passing communications between, you know, what day did Trump and Putin meet? They met on 11/11, right? The Q drops talked about this, you know, possibly these groups of leaders working together, right? At a bare minimum, maybe to preserve the integrity of the network. Why did China kick out all the miners when they had over 50% of the hash rate? Maybe there was an agreement there. Would China really logically do that if they were, you know, trying to take over the world and stuff? And so I think Trump came to these people and said, look, if you want a release from the CIA banking Zionist cartel, this is the solution we're going to give you, right? There's going to be certain things we have to do. But it's going to release your neck, right, from the grasp hold of the central bankers, right? Why did they start the Ukraine war? Why is Russia such a problem for them? Right now, we've got BRICS, which is basically 51% attacking the dollar, perhaps. They're going to possibly back it, you know, with Bitcoin or some digital currency type of thing. And so I think this plan is much, much bigger. And I think, you know, again, if we told people like maybe the story that makes sense, maybe people would pick up a weapon to fight these guys instead of like, oh, don't talk about who Satoshi is. No, like look at these, look at the proofs here. There's a weapon sitting out there in cyberspace waiting for you to pick it up, right? Like, are you going to pay taxes on unrealized gains, Robert?
Fuck no, that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, and so at what point, what is a red line? And so it's just, I think we need to, again, think deeper. And I think tokenization as part of this plan is massive. Now let's talk more about counterparty, right?
So can I ask you one question? Something you just said. So China kicked out Bitcoin mining, almost 3 years ago at this point? 2.5, 3?
2021, yeah.
You're saying that in this thesis that Trump et al. And whoever that white hat group is goes to CCP China and says, here's how you get released from the central banking cartel. But then you think that China refused that offer? That's why they kicked out?
No, I think they were in agreement with it. I think actually that entire thing that happened back then when the hash rate dropped was to throw Bitcoin out of its natural sequence. Like it literally threw the entire network like out of balance.
Okay.
On purpose, because otherwise we probably would have hit 100K that first time. But us throwing it out of balance by messing with the hash rate, Elon dumping. How did Elon get able to buy Twitter? Right? He literally cashed out at the top. Funny enough, at like what 69,000. They were able to pump it, cash out, dump it, ruin all the hedge funds, ruin all the FTX guys, kick out the bankers, right? And so it threw Bitcoin's natural rhythm off.
So you're telling me that we are living through the digital American revolution
we are
globally?
Globally, yes. This is a global digital 1776. Fuck. There are people out there, I believe, that are helping behind the scenes. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with Tesla Technologies. Yeah. I believe Elon is slowly releasing military technology that has been hidden from us for a long, long time.
Wow.
If you go drive a Tesla car, it's like any other thing you've driven, right? And I used to be the biggest Tesla hater. Yeah. I used to hate EVs. Yeah. I'm like, this is communism. Yeah. They're going to shut the power off.
Yeah.
And then went and drove one. I'm like, it's like a spaceship compared to what we're able to deal with now. Like, what do you get in your car now? Oh, like they've added Bluetooth capability, right? Yeah. They've given you an extra cup holder.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're going to have wireless cars charging on the road at like, free of charge almost.
Yeah. I agree. Spaceship, they're fucking cool. I ended up getting the diesel truck instead. I have a question though. Why did the Bitcoin emoji get removed after Elon bought Twitter? I thought that was a bad sign for him. Yeah. And and his public stance on Bitcoin obviously is ambiguous at best.
I think he's also playing, he's a major chess player, right? Okay. Just like Saylor, right? Saying, oh, we have to work with banks and do this thing. Right? And so you have to play this, you have to have this bicameral vision of like they're good guy, bad guy. Yeah. But you have to understand the like 40,000 foot plan, I think, of everything. And so Elon and purposely is like, he's kind of messing with the network a little bit. But if you look at back when Elon tweeted about NFTs, guess what day he tweeted about NFTs the first time? 3/15. And the marker was 2222. I think the video length was all twos. Not only that, but he said, want to buy some Bitcoin when he tweeted that, and he changed his profile to Laser Eyes. The girl that's Laser Eyes is a counterparty Oasis mining Bitcoin NFT asset on Counterparty. Do you think that's a coincidence, Robert?
I have no fucking idea.
So Elon took this picture of this girl. It's like a girl that's like has Bitcoin on her chest. Yeah. Right. And he literally updated his profile, said, "Oh, Laser Eyes for a day" or something. Yeah. I screenshot this stuff. Yeah. I take research. I screenshot it all. And then further along down, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is actually a counterparty token from the Oasis mining project that was, minted like years ago. I was like, how did Elon get that image? That's just kind of, it's like this Japanese artist type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny how some of these things deal with, but even more back into these rare Pepes, you get like, there's one card called Cove Pepe Rare.
Yeah.
Okay. And you get in Trump. It's like a Trump looking figure. And he's got this red tongue. He's got a mouth that's shaped like a Q, by the way. He's got this red tongue that like is like two bumps and then a big bump up, almost like the recent, kind of price action from the last couple of years. And you've got Andrew Jackson in the corner, a little portrait of him in the corner. And it's like series 12, card 21. So you go look at the Bible verses too, like Matthew 12:21. You go look then you go look at the opposite of it. You go look at series 21, card 12, and you get Pepe, which is like this Pepe the sailor, Pepe, Popeye. Yeah. Right? Popeye was actually introduced in 1929. What happened in 1929? Stock market crash, right? Maybe Sailor, the Pepe, the sailor frog. Maybe he's some character, Anyways, it just goes into these weird...
Matthew 12:21, that is when Christ flips the money. It flips the tables, right?
Flips the tables.
Wow.
Flips the tables of the money changers.
Which is
the only time I think Jesus got undomesticated, perhaps.
The only time he went ape shit, to put it.
Yeah, but if we keep going, can you scroll down on the notes there real quick?
This is like almost fucking overwhelming in a way.
It is. There's a ton. And so you go back to what happened during the 2020 election, okay? Again, some of us believe that, again, this plan kind of required this, Joe Biden to come into office to show you how bad it would get, to, lose the reserve currency under this type of dictator, ruler, whatever, okay? And so he signed Executive Order which one's this one? This is 13961, which is again a 369, which we call devolution. Devolution is like this continuity of government, okay? And so if you understand, like, the U.S. government has certain, like, backstops in case of nuclear attack, right? Say, like, Congress gets blown up or these things get blown up. You have certain command and control units, right, that are able to keep, like, the basics of just fundamental government kind of running at the baseline. And so he signed that, I think, before the election happened, and it was about foreign interference in elections. And so if that happened, maybe there is this kind of plan to where, Trump's not in charge, but maybe there is some just like this slow transition of like exposing tyranny and corruption to where the people finally get up enough balls, right? They undomesticate themselves enough to stand up to this tyranny. Because I think, back to Jason Lowry's thesis, he talks about it as a nation state kind of, for nation states to settle disputes. But how do we as humans settle disputes with tyrants that we live under? How do we tell them, hey, we're not gonna pay our taxes to pedophiles anymore. You don't get to rent seek off of a transaction between me and another individual. Governments become service providers at the end of all of this.
Right.
And so, there's just, it's kind of mind blowing because now that you have the filter, and now maybe that your other audience has the filter. Yeah. Like, you'll just start seeing things and you'll be like, oh, that's weird. And you're like, and you'll probably just pass it off a couple times, but then you'll like start seeing it over and over and you'll be like, okay, like, I don't know what's going on here.
So it's all right. Then the devolution thing, this was signed by Biden or Trump?
It was signed by Trump.
Signed by Trump. And so this enables the government to fragment and decentralize under certain extreme conditions.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then you've got Space Force, which if you think about it, right, the high ground. Yeah. Space Force has the highest ground of all.
Sure.
They've got GPS now. They're in control of GPS or control of, Space Force and Starlink. Right. And, you've got all these rockets going into space. You've got Starlink completely decentralizing the internet.
Right.
You've got a military general came on my show and talked about there's technologies coming that can beam energy from space to your phone, to your car. And so what are these technologies, right? Like, what is free energy? Tesla really had it right. But I don't think you can usher in these new technologies, free energy, all that stuff, unless you had a finite monetary asset to back it with, right? Because otherwise...
Well, you can't transfer the energy digitally, basically.
Right.
You've got to have wires. But with Bitcoin, you can actually basically move it. It's not actually moving physical energy, but you can, encapsulate it in one place in a perfectly scarce asset and unlock it in another place in with the same level of scarcity. This is the energy money thing Tesla was talking about, right?
Vibration, right? Like transferring energy from one person to another.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting weirder and weirder. But the capital markets, back to that. Tokenization.
So let's hit that. Yeah. Okay, the capital markets. There's this is in some old Jewish text. You should keep 1/3 of your wealth in your business, 1/3 of your wealth in cash, 1/3 of your wealth in land. And, currently the global mix of assets is tilted more heavily to capital markets, equities, debt, et cetera, I would say, because cash doesn't hold its value, right? Gold is obviously good at that, but it's a smaller market. It's manipulated, and there's a whole story behind that too. If we go into this world where Bitcoin is the dominant money, I think the global wealth mix would look something more like that. Probably be if whatever people call it 900 trillion in assets, but I don't think you can include the debt because the debt's a claim on assets. I think you have to net that out.
Right.
So you end up with something like 600 trillion, something like that. I think it ends up being like 200 trillion land, 200 trillion cash, 200 trillion equities, something like that. You're now thinking that Bitcoin could also capture maybe all of it. I mean, I guess it titles the land too.
Yeah.
We would be facilitating these in this.
Well, how do you stop individuals from taxing your land? If you hold a deed in an
NFT, loyal title.
You hold your own title that they can't take from you. Right?
Yeah.
And so many people goes, oh, you can't. What if some hacker in North Korea gets title to your land? Well, same way they got access to your Bitcoin, bro.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be ways to custody it, probably more safer, and like, these institutions, like maybe a multi-sig with like Unchained or something. But I believe those are coming down the line. It has to be inevitably.
Well, it has to ground out in some local force, right? There has to be, so it's not maybe, I mean, individuals can still hold it, but if the guy gets your fucking land title or whatever it is in North Korea, well, the local monopoly enforcers is not going to acknowledge that, perhaps.
Correct. Yeah, that could also be perhaps. Yeah.
It's like, that gets very weird and blurry to me at that point. But I do see where if the centralized DTCC thing no longer works, well, how are we going to do it? There needs to be some decentralized approach. But it starts to like, it blends the actual technological protocol with the actual governance social layer. And like, that's where things are fuzzy to me. It's like, how?
Well, and I think Trump is helping with that, right? And what is Trump's been talking about NFTs as? They've called it be defiant, right? Defiant.
Yeah.
Right? What is defiant? Well, what does defiant mean? It's actually a, what do they call it? It's a enthusiastic, what is it? Enthusiastic, like repeal of authority, right? Like you're not only like saying no, you're saying like, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay.
Be defiant is straight up telling you no more.
Yeah.
And when did Trump launch some of his NFTs? Well, one of them was on tax day, and it was a 1776 series on tax day. One of them was on 12/15, which is again a 3/15. And funny enough, I looked at the first Donald Trump NFT.
Yeah.
Okay, and I actually downloaded it and looked at the pixel sizes of it, and the size of it was 1013 by 1013, and I'm like, 113 again with the test hit and like the Q drop. I'm like, and that's also 1031, which is like literally Satoshi white paper day. So I think there's these embedded numbered codes that Trump is a full-blown Bitcoin maximalist. He is just playing politics to not only get as many crypto bros on board as he can, but to also rug pull them. He's going to rug pull them because he's promising you no taxes, right? And imagine, Robert, like these guys betting $28 million on Trump winning, right? The poly markets and stuff. Imagine the next day when the proof of stake system, right? The state electors, whatever, just take it from him because it's proof of stake. The stakeholders control the power. They control the ballot boxes, right? They control
no proof of real.
No proof of real.
Yeah.
How are you going to prove you got that many votes?
Before starting the What is Money show, I spent most of my career as a CFO, overseeing internal technology implementations and business acquisitions. Over the next 10 years, it is projected that over 12 million businesses in the US will be sold. If you are an operator running a business generating between $5 and $200 million of revenue, and you're considering selling your business within the next decade, then there is a significant opportunity for you to deploy technology to streamline business processes, reduce operating costs, and enhance the multiple your business ultimately sells for. To this end, I am partnering with the team at Emerge Dynamics, a firm with decades of experience in maximizing the value of privately held small and middle market businesses. Go to emergedynamics.com/breedlove to learn how you can build an attractive, high multiple company that maximizes your return when you fully exit. Again, that's emergedynamics.com/breedlove. This December 17th to 21st, 2024, join me on the Pacific coast of Mexico for our men's retreat, The Art of Alpha. At this world-class retreat center, we will have daily meditations, movement practices, yoga, cold plunging, infrared sauna, and many other biohacking modalities, all while enjoying world-class cuisine designed for optimal full-body health. The Retreat Center is a gorgeous biohacker's paradise located right on the ocean. You can think of this place as a nervous system reset facility. At the Art of Alpha, we are seeking men who wish to cultivate freedom, wisdom, sovereignty, physical fitness, truth, and love in themselves and in those who look up to them. If you've always felt motivated to push yourself to new limits to discover the best version of yourself, but you've struggled to find the right community to immerse yourself in, then the Art of Alpha is for you. To apply to join the Art of Alpha, go to breedloveevents.com. Again, that's breedloveevents.com to apply to join us for the Art of Alpha on the Pacific coast of Mexico this December 17th through 21st, 2024. All right, so has Trump then managed to garner as much popular support as he has been able to because he's playing this numerology game? Like, is this...
Well, I think it's also just talking in just very direct terms with people, right? Yeah. Like if you go back and look at, it's funny, if you go back and look at when Barack Obama killed Osama bin Laden, he's like, you know, Osama bin Laden was terminated today, right? And you look at, and you go back and look at when Trump killed the terrorist, like, he's like, Abdul Badadi, whatever, is dead. He died like a dog. And it's like this very sly talking like salesman versus just like kind of just up in your face. And so it's almost kind of like making fun of, it's almost trolling the system of like smoothness and stuff of their characters to just like a blunt, direct, we're going to talk to you directly like how it is. And I think that's kind of like, you know, and that message actually resonates with the bell curve of like, you know, the people over here that are like, you know, not very smart. Yeah. And then the high IQ people here, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And the people in the middle are kind of like, oh, well, like, you know, he dated Stormy Daniels and like, you know, he filed, you know, bankruptcy 11 times and, you know, all this other crazy stuff. And
11
like,
times.
Probably yeah, 11 times probably. Yeah, I don't know.
So why does Trump support Israel then? Or do you think he's just saying this as like the surface level representation of himself?
If you go back and look at what he did with like the Arab Accords and stuff, which was make peace in the Middle East. He made deals with, you know, I'm not the expert on some of this stuff, but there's proof that, you know, the deals he made with Arab countries, which by the way, Saudi Arabia was a huge one. Okay. Why was Saudi Arabia so huge? Well, because who was going to take over power, right? You had Alawid, who was partners with Bill Gates. They owned the Four Seasons, which was the top 4 floors of the Mandalay Bay. There's rumors that his son, Prince
from where the shooting occurred.
Yes.
Okay.
There's rumors that Prince Salman, who's now the king, all right, MBS, was actually in Vegas during that time, and that there was actually an assassination attempt on his body, on him, because Salman King. So he liked to actually dress up as a normal person,
right,
and go gamble. Like that's what MBS liked to do,
right. And
so the rumor is that Saudi Arabia Special Forces or something were there, and that they went over, and he was the target. He got tipped off, and then what happened 2 weeks later? You had about 21 princes rounded up in Saudi Arabia. Some of them were killed. Alawid also owned Twitter, by the way, a big stake in it. They hung Alawid up and all these other princes upside down in the Ritz-Carlton in Saudi Arabia. He lost more than half of his wealth because I think he was working for Mossad or who knows. He was an Israeli intelligence agent. And then you had Khashoggi, right, get chopped up to pieces like a year later
in Turkey.
On the day.
Was it in Turkey that happened?
Yep. And it was 1 year after the Vegas incident had happened.
So what the fuck happened in Vegas?
Exactly. What the fuck happened in Vegas?
Why shoot at a crowd?
Well, I think it was a diversion.
A diversion?
I think something went bad. There was a diversion. They were trying to get MBS. It went bad. And, you know, it definitely wasn't the guy in the actual suite. And it will get, by the way, guess what suite number he was in? 32135. And it's like,
so that's an unsolved mystery then.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened? Something went wrong up there and then they shot at the crowd as a fucking diversion?
Yeah. So if you want to really get into it.
Why the fuck would you? That is so.
Well, I think we were being shot at by helicopters. Yeah. So if you look at the little ping devices they have on the helicopters.
Yeah.
There's ones that are literally hovering right behind Mandalay Bay right before it happened. Those go dead. And then they come back online like 20 minutes after it happens. You see little flashing lights in the background in some of the videos. There's a gentleman by the name of I Am John Cullen that's done extensive research on this that goes through all the videotapes and shows like the flashing lights in the background. And like I was on the ground, like it felt like you were being shot at from multiple guns, and they felt like they were belt fed guns. It wasn't a freaking bump stock. I shoot guns all the time, right? I have an idea of like what it feels like being shot at,
and probably the sound too. Right?
Yeah, the sound, everything. And
what I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm asking you too much,
no,
but can you recall a little bit of that experience for me, like the horror? I mean, you must have been fucking horrified.
It was Sunday night. We were getting drinks at, funny enough, right, it's done right under the pyramid on 10-1, which is an 11. Anyways, getting drinks. And then I'm like from here to like probably the corner of your room over there. And we hear a couple like it sounded like fireworks actually. The first couple of rounds, it sounded like fireworks. And it was like pop, 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 pop. And then like, I was like, oh, that didn't sound very good. Like, I'm going to like at least I'm very aware of my surroundings. I'm always a guy that like sits facing the door, like, you know, always kind of looking. And so I'm like, okay, exit's over there. Like, it was probably just some idiot lighting off fireworks in the crowd because it didn't sound like gunshots the first couple of ones.
Yeah.
And then like 2 minutes go by or a minute goes by. And you hear, da, 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 da. I'm like, oh, fuck. I immediately.
Jeez.
And so I grab him. I'm like, hit the fucking deck, right? Because I'm like, hey, hit the deck. I'm like, as soon as there's a mag change, we're getting up and we're running, but we're not running while like bullets are flying. But at the time, I thought it was on the ground because it felt like it was so close.
Yeah.
But I really think it was that from helicopters. So maybe getting on the ground didn't matter. And then like there was a pause, and then I'm like, fuck, let's get up. We start running, diving on concrete until we're like able to get up. And then I have a friend who's a cop, right? So we do that like maybe we jump and dive like 5 different times to get out and finally out of the way. My buddy got shot in the leg. We didn't know what happened to him for a while. Because a lot of us, I grabbed his wife out of there. She was under a bunch of people. It was gnarly. And then I have a buddy who's a cop. I'm like, hey, dude, like we're in this like motel, like that was like kind of abandoned, and we're just like waiting here. Like, can you tell me what's going on? He's like, dude, they're saying there's shots at Tropicana, there's shots at Mandalay Bay, there's shots at MGM. He's saying there's shooters everywhere, and I'm like, what the fuck? So we just like stayed there because he was getting the police scanner reports, but. I think a lot of those reports ended up being fake anyway. Wow. So we didn't know what. So talk about a diversion. Imagine a bunch of people in a city start calling for gunshots everywhere.
Right.
While they're really happening where the helicopters are.
So what the hell really happened, man?
Right.
Someone was getting away or.
The total diversion of just, hey, everybody call this number 911 and start saying there's gunshots everywhere. And people finding random weapons in the streets. But this also goes back to JFK, right? With the multiple shooters, I think. In some sense, because a lot of that was covered up too.
Yeah,
the JFK stuff.
Yeah. Was that something you wanted? I mean,
I was just a comparison.
I've heard this, on other podcasts. I've talked about the whole. Was it Dealey Plaza?
Yeah, Dealey Plaza.
Dealey Plaza is like a distraction, basically.
Yeah.
And then there were multiple shooters.
But again, he was assassinated 11/22. Which is
11/11,
1963.
3 months after Executive Order 11110.
1963, 369.
Yeah.
And so I think if we look at this from that perspective, if this election does get rug pulled, which I think it will, right? What are you going to do about it as an individual, as a sovereign individual? Like, what is your purpose here? Are you going to stand up to tyranny and like refuse to pay federal income tax? Because we've been kind of quiet about it before, but like, what else is there? And we talked about it earlier, where if enough of us rise up, we only need like 3.51% of us to some degree. Like, they can't come and force it on everybody. If we like DDoS attack their enforcement apparatus,
right? The cost of enforcement's is not even worth it at that point, frankly.
No.
Yeah.
Especially if you have everybody self-custodying their Bitcoin.
Do you then advocate for people to move to like Puerto Rico or something to stop paying? Or do you think
let's fight it here, man? Why do we got to go anywhere else?
Right.
I think we can fight it here. I think we have better chances fighting it here, but peacefully, right? Like, but I think there's going to be a lot of emotion after this election. But so many people are like, if Trump comes back and starts to like fix everything, we just go back into like drinking Bud Lights and watching football on the weekends and forget all about this stuff. How are we going to get to the other side of freedom without having to fully go through proof of stake? And going through proof of stake has to be a rug pull, because if they steal this, imagine how many people are going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
But we're in a domesticated species. Maybe a couple guys will get violent, but like the most part, people aren't going to rise up. They'll be like, you know what? We'll just vote 2028.
Right.
But some people are going to be like, hey, no, this isn't right. Right? We have a a red line of morality. We're not going to put up with this tyranny.
Yeah.
So we're going to stop. And that's, I believe, the most undomesticated thing a human being can do in this day and age. As a conscientious objector, right? I'm not paying my taxes to go bomb kids in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I'm not paying my taxes to go send bombs to Ukraine, to send bombs to any other country, Taiwan, right? I mean, we're sending weapons all over the world right now. And so at some point, you're actually aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise by paying your taxes.
For sure. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's horrible. Like even... Again, the holding of dollar balances, even, you are complicit. It's like even for those people that maybe aren't paying a lot of taxes or no taxes or whatever, like if you're lower on the economic hierarchy, you might be thinking, oh, well, I don't pay much tax, so I'm not participating. It's like, well, if you have a fucking bank account with dollars in it, they're also printing that money to steal your purchasing power to buy those bombs. So it's very difficult to disentangle yourself from this. But I agree, it is aiding and abetting the largest and most sophisticated criminal enterprise on earth, for sure.
And to hop on that is like, the metaphysical of keeping your energy in a corrupt system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. The metaphysics of like keeping your energy in a corrupt system. Mm-hmm. Inherently, like you want to protect that system. Mm-hmm. So if all of your money is in Wall Street and you're inherently supporting
your identity
corruption,
is
totally attached to that. And so when Michael Saylor says he's if you're only 10% in, you're only you only believe in Bitcoin 10%, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of us are more than that in. Mm-hmm. And so I believe in a lot of that manifestation of power, that when we collectively put most of our energy in here, like we're bringing more people on board. Yeah. That collective conscious is shifting.
Definitely.
The memetics of Pepe and all these different things are shifting.
Yeah. The memetics of Pepe, but then also the mimetics of like Rene Girard, where people start to imitate those. They see, oh, this guy is taking a stand and he's becoming more wealthy and he's, succeeding in whatever respect. People actually start to find that individual imitation worthy. And that is how cultural transmission occurs. It's not, the rational arguments help, and sure, we recruit certain people that like to be disagreeable and thoughtful, but that's like 1 in 100 people. The other 99 just imitate, basically. So that you do have to play this game at multiple levels, right? The memetics, the mimetics, the rational discourse. I wanted to ask you, there have been, 2 attempts on Trump's life?
3, technically, I guess. Well, there was one guy with a gun in his car, I guess. So.
Okay, so 2 or 3 what happens there? Obviously, I would assume I don't know. Are these legitimate threats?
Look, I don't think.
And what happens if he gets assassinated?
Well, I don't think he's going to get it. I think the potentiality for that has been gone for a long time.
Okay.
And so whether you believe he actually got shot at or not, I think it's just helpful just to go with the mainstream line. He got shot at, right? You try to take his life. If you try to get into too much of the, you're fighting a narrative that you're not going to win, right? Like, like his ear, like, he's no bandage. It didn't, like, whatever, right? Like it was a miracle. Yeah. Okay. So just think about that from an intuition point. What really happened? Who knows? But for the general population, right? Like they tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Okay. And they've been trying to kill him for a long time. Now that he's out, out and in the public. But it just brings more attention to it. It brings more attention to the deep state, right? Trying to take out patriots, but they failed a while ago. And I think some of this is just psyops. Okay. I believe psyops are very important with the different narratives that get told about the P. Diddy, about the shooting, about whatever they want to bring into the narrative of banking. And so these narratives help memetically, right? What are the memetics now? No taxes, right? Trump's like, no tax on tips, no tax on this. Incrementally, he's saying no taxes. Yeah. And so what are people saying? Well, no taxes, man. Yeah. Trump said no taxes. Yeah. So memetically, you have a lot of people saying no taxes. We don't need taxes. Yeah. We've never needed taxes. I haven't filed in a few years, right? And so what are we going to do, right? You just have to stop filing. Yeah. It's a voluntary choice to aid and abet a criminal enterprise at this point.
Yeah, and there is, people can all do their own fucking research, but there is nothing in the U.S. There's nothing that's constitutional about the IRS or compulsory taxation whatsoever. It's anti-constitutional without it. Like, inarguably, anyone that's ever worth their fucking weight of research will tell you that without a fact. I'm sorry, without a doubt. However, the trap is very sharp, and there are lots of little springs and all, so everyone fucking be careful. I don't like, it's not financial advice.
Yeah. It's not financial advice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, do things that are smart and, but at some point, I think a lot of people, they say the meek shall inherit the earth, right? And so if you're afraid of losing all these different assets that are in a proof of stake system, well, you're going to pay taxes and protect it.
Yeah.
But the people that never had an opportunity to even buy that stuff, what are they going to lose? Right? Come and get me. What are you going to can't take my seed phrase?
Yeah.
And so you have this younger generation that can't even afford to buy a house if they wanted to. So like, they're going to be like, I'm not reporting my crypto gains. I'm not doing this. Trump says no taxes. I believe that.
So okay. So we are then living through this digital American revolution, but tell me how it's global though, because so it sounds like the thesis is that Trump now is taking this offer to other countries, presumably, right? Russia or China. I'm saying Trump, but I don't know, like whoever's pulling the string, whatever the white hat is.
Yeah.
They're trying to now mobilize these forces geopolitically, or these leaders in different power structures globally, to throw off the bondage of the central bank, fucking Zionist, whatever cult thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it happened a long time ago.
Okay.
And I think we're just now we're basically witnessing it.
Okay.
And they've tried to, again, pull as many of us out, right? They've weaponized us as individuals as to like the economic Minutemen of this new digital 1776 worldwide, right? And you've got leaders from all over the world, right? It brought out the, courageous individuals that started talking about money, and you're literally like a digital soldier, right? General Flynn talked about digital soldiers. And like, if you know anything about soldiers, if you're a soldier, you usually have a weapon.
Yeah.
Imagine going onto a battlefield without a weapon.
Yeah.
Right. And we're in a digital information age of weaponry. And so, the propaganda is not going to stop, but the propaganda is not proof of real.
Sure.
It's just fake.
Sure.
And so if we can attach ourselves to proof of real through either, proofs like this tokenization stuff, or, watching a rigged election, I think, it's gonna happen more accelerated now that we're getting into this.
Okay, so then we are in an information war for sure, but this is also a preamble to a possible hot war of some kind, right?
I mean,
civil war, or
I don't think we're gonna get to that. I hope not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we go to civil war and stuff, like we lose all the narratives of the money is bad, right? The corruption is bad with the Epstein stuff, like
right.
And we have Starlink now. We're gonna have 24-hour access to internet if we want it.
And so you I guess envision more that you recruit so many of these people to the new. It's a libertarian ideology, basically, right? It's like life, liberty, property, leave us the fuck alone kind of thing.
Live and let live.
You recruit enough people to that the enforcement cost across all that population becomes so great that the centralized power structure is like, well, fuck, we're out of business, basically.
We're out of business.
So you think, this is kind of hearkening back to those Police lyrics I quoted to you earlier, right? That this is the opening lines to the song "We Are Spirits in a Material World," and it says, "There is no political solution to our troubled evolution. Have no faith in Constitution. There is no bloody revolution, or blood in revolution, maybe." And okay, so let's unpack some of that, right? There's no political solution to our troubled evolution. You can't vote harder to fucking fix all of these problems, right? You got to fix the money to fix the world, as Bitcoiners say. Have no faith in Constitution. A Constitution is an enumerated list of the things the government cannot do. The United States was founded as a constitutional republic. There are a list of inalienable rights,
which they've
fucking violated.
And it's on a piece of paper.
Exactly. It's at the end of the day, it's scribbles on a piece of paper. Like there's a sacred agreement there, but it can be violated because it's not systematized, right? It's not
behind a wall of energy.
It's not behind a wall of energy. It's not incentivized or systematized. And then what's the last line? There is no bloody revolution or blood in revolution. Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can violently overthrow this thing, because then that just sets up the conditions for the next violent tyrant to take over, to fill the vacuum, so to speak, right? You create a power vacuum, the next violent group fills the power vacuum, and instead of dealing with the whatever central bank Zionist mafia we're dealing with now, we're dealing with the whoever mafia next.
Right.
And so we need, like, Bitcoin is the only possible solution to...
Bitcoin is the salt of the earth. It allows cultures to preserve themselves over a longer time period. And if you don't like where you're at, you can just move, right? I mean, countries are going to open up. They want your sats, right?
Yeah.
El Salvador has 0 taxes for Bitcoin companies. And that's just going to continue to expand, I think, as we continue to go down this ride, right? Of no taxes. I'm still waiting for Trump to say no tax on crypto. That's probably another one he's going to say before the election. No tax on crypto, right? And so if we keep going down these different narratives, yeah, maybe, it's a little bit more peaceful than I thought it would be, if they start to transition to no taxes, or maybe it's the other way. Time will tell, but I believe, we're such in a domesticated state. People are begging for a God King.
Yeah.
So if you're begging for a God King, well, we're going to give you a God King. You may not like the God King you get, but you're going to get one. And this time he's going to probably take more than a tenth. And then what are you going to do about it? And it goes back to, the Bible of, if you want a king, I'll give it to you, but he's going to take a tenth.
That's so true. Fuck me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, my mind's been thoroughly blown.
Yeah,
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. There's just so much you can do. I mean, if you want to check this out, like, it's all open sourced. It's called the Okefenokee dig. And I think people should just look at it. And if you see the patterns, cool. If you don't see the patterns and you think we're crazy, hey, that's all fine too.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing work. And then I guess we're in conclusion now. So, like, where can people find you on the internet?
So
more about your work. And by the way, just to say it, I read your essay right before we did this, and it was like, I didn't know any of this shit. I didn't know about Q really that much. I didn't know about Pepe, whatever the fucking name is, and all these weird numerological connections. It's like, whoa, it was interesting. It was a quick read. It's long. It's like 40 pages, but there's a lot of images. So it took me 20 minutes basically to get through it. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. Honestly, it's like it can't all be a coincidence. Like, that's not possible.
It's got to kind of marinate.
You're trying to, like, balance between, okay, well, it can't possibly all be a coincidence, but then you're also like, well, how much am I over reading into this?
Exactly.
And it's somewhere in between.
And that's why I love people to criticize it. Like, if you have critiques on it, please bring it to me, because I initially started this as trying to disprove it.
Yeah.
Every time I found something, like, no, disprove that.
Yeah.
Fuck, I found something else.
Yeah.
So no, GMONEY Pepe on Twitter. I also have a website called 1776.love. where you can download the Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace by John Perry Barlow. You can download Soft War by Jason Lowry for free. So if you want to, weaponize yourself,
that book was banned, right? As far as I know,
it's under DOD, right? Like security review. Funny
because I had a couple of copies here, and someone told me, like, "Hey, man, that thing's trading for like $2,000 on Amazon or something." I was like, "Oh, interesting." I did.
Yeah, so it's under DoD review. So if you want to download those copies, you want to become a digital soldier in cyberspace, you want to declare your sovereignty in cyberspace, there's only one way to do that. That's with Bitcoin. These NFTs, I've got the Pepe it's called pepeproject.com. You can kind of just check out these frogs. Again, they're basically journalistic connections of what I've put together that's on the blockchain, right? Proof of real. We found these connections, we put them on the blockchain in addition to these other ones. But I think Rare Pepe's counterparty is going to be massive. And I think Bitcoiners need to, like, stop arguing over layer 1 solutions and find a layer 2 that's scalable,
So cool. Well, you've at least recruited me into the numerology cult, because now I think I'm going to look at my episode numbers and try to, like, drop some little nuggets here and see what people...
Well, you are Breedlove 22. You are an 1111, man.
And I was telling you about that offline. I was like, well, there was a whole thing throughout, like, my life. Basically my favorite number, and the favorite number of my favorite number is 22. But later in life, I learned it's a master number and all this stuff. So it's fucking esoteric and interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on again, man.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money. And be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.